Hello and welcome to Talk a Good Game as a match preview of West Ham United against Watford as 11th take on 12th in the Premier League. As always, before and after the game, we will have our votes. So if you would like to come for a beer and a barbecue with the Hamish Chat Lot, you can get your ticket. Links in the description. We're probably going to sell out for this weekend, so be quick and we will see you there, hopefully. But Gonzo, Watford had one win in 12 games until they played Chelsea on Monday and they smashed them 4-1. What's your thoughts on Watford this season?
Oh, well, it's just our luck. Really just our luck, isn't it? The time we got to play them, they start playing like Brazil. It's absolutely ridiculous. But you could have guessed it. I thought they were down a little bit. We discussed it in the cup of tea. I think Silva had his head turned. So I think the relatively recent form, when just before Silva got dismissed, was not reflective of how good Watford are. His head was turned. He wasn't interested in the job. So they brought in a fellow, is it Xavi Garcia, something like that? They brought him in. He looks like he's given them a bit of a bounce, given them a bit of an uplift. Brought in some good signings as well. Deulofeu, who obviously we wanted, well, personally, I wanted at our club. Good proven Premier League performer, and also he seems to be getting a tune out of Pereira again, who was obviously from Juventus. It seems to have dropped down the pecking order a little bit. Troy Deeney is a pain in the arse, but in a good way for them and in a bad way for us. So they look to be they look to have a spring in their step at a time when we're a little bit downtrodden.
Yeah, I think at the start of the season, they were sort of everybody's second team, really. Everybody quite enjoyed watching them. They enjoyed what Marcus was trying to do. They had creative players creating. They had a solid engine in the midfield with like a Decore. And then Marcus Silva had his head turned. Garcia's it's a good appointment, a safe appointment. He's a bit more like Flores than he is Marco Silva. So I don't think it's going to be his attacking, but I think it'll be more defensive, solid. I know they just won 4-1 against Chelsea, but Chelsea played most of the game with 10 men, etc. But then again, saying that, they look lightning quick on the attack. Every time they got the ball, they look like they were going to make something happen. And this is not the first time I'm going to say this. Watford's strengths are our weaknesses, and that's not a good thing headed into this. But who do you consider their main danger? You mentioned Deeney, you mentioned Deulofeu, but if you had to pick out one that you could take to West Ham, perhaps, who would you take, or who do you fear most on Saturday?
If I could take one to West Ham, it would have to be positionally. I probably would. I've always liked Pereira, really have liked him. I don't know of many players when they come from overseas, but I knew of that guy. So he's, in many respects, would fit in very, very well in West Ham's team. That doesn't mean to say he's their best player. It's just we need a central midfielder. Obviously, Richarlison has done well for them. The other midfielder you just mentioned, what's his name, Decore?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good player as well. Deeney's the fulcrum. He's a captain. He gives them a lot of spirit. He gives them a lot of fight. I don't know if you remember when they played Arsenal. I remember that will stick with me, his comments about Arsenal not being up for it. And also, if you remember last season when they turned us over, I think we started playing quite well. This is the corresponding fixture we had one at our place. And then he said they were a little bit offended by all the tricks and flicks that we were doing, if you remember that. So they decided to, say, right, enough's enough, let's go and thump him. So clearly he is a leader. He's got some leadership qualities. He's a battler, and I think he'll give our defensive three quite a hard time.
Richarlison's one I fear most. First time I saw him, I thought, Jesus, this boy's got something. And every time I've seen him since, he goes missing in a few games. But against Chelsea, he had his mojo back. He was causing them grief. And what I found interesting about him and Deulofeu was while they were wingers as such, they were not playing as wingers against Chelsea. They were up against centre-backs, not the full-backs. Moses was not dealing with Richarlison. It was the centre-back, and the same with Deulofeu. And them two and Deeney were almost making it 3 versus 3 against Chelsea's back three, and that's not good for us, not good at all. I think they've got better centre. Well, this is what I was going to say to you. Do you currently, bear in mind fitness, etc., do they currently have a better 11 than us?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I would say they've got a better midfield and a better attack. I don't know if they've got a better defence. You can pick your bones about that or not, because we've pretty much got all our defenders fit. Apart from Masuaku's suspension, everyone else is available. But their attack in midfield, I think, are better than ours, which is not a good thing. Do you think they're going to be safe this season, Gonzo? They're sitting at 11, 3 points ahead of us.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's a funny model, isn't it? Really, because for those that don't know, the owners of Watford own a number of clubs across the continent. I think they own Granada, Udinese. I think they own a club in every major league or some, or at least have a significant amount of shares in it. They're very, very quick to sack their manager if things go well, or even if they don't go well. Look how they Flores did very, very well for him, had a fantastic cup run, and they still ditched him as well. So they'll think nothing of it, but the model works for them in the same way that maybe the model worked for Abramovich of, just sacking the managers all the time. It does work, and I think they will be fine, because the moment they get an inkling that something is not right, they act. They're proactive rather than reactive, and they seem quite switched on. So I don't think they'll have any problems at all.
No, either do I. I think they'll be safe as houses. They've gone through a horrible run of form. Like I said, 1 win in 12 is terrible. They were starting to sink. That 3 points has really boosted them. And the way they played against Chelsea, they keep that in that attitude. To be honest, I think they might finish in the top half. They might just sneak in there. But let's talk about West Ham. We got beat 3-1 last game, so could be quite a few changes. What back three would you go with? We've got all the centre backs fit. We've also got the option of playing Creswell there if you'd like to see Evra at the wing back situation. So you've got not many options in midfield, a few options up front, but you've got heaps of options in defence.
Yeah, I funny enough, I can't actually pull it up on my screen. I can't get rid of you. Which you'd be pleased about. I can't actually get the screen. I just did the team beforehand. And the one thing that was troubling me, I was sort of tempted to play the same back three, but how can you when we were so bad? And I think there was, to a certain extent, there was a sort of loyalty towards Rice because he's a young player and because, you want him to do well. Having said that, would it be right to have him up against Deeney? I was almost half tempted because I don't think Evra should start. I just don't. How can he be match fit? So I'd still play Cresswell on the left. So I'm still looking for a centre back. I was almost tempted to play Font because the one thing we miss when Cresswell's not there is somebody that can pass the ball out for the back. Even though Ginge had a terrible game, I think if Deeney's playing, which he is, you've got to play Ginge because he's physical. So, yeah, I think I settled on playing Font, Ginge and Ogbonna as a back three.
So would you take Ogbonna out of the middle? Ogbonna's been playing in the middle of the back three, and that's where Deeney's there. So if you're playing Ginge into combat Deeney, does that mean you're going to shuffle the back three about a little bit?
Yeah, I'd play Ogbonna on the left because he's left-footed, and I'd play Font on the right to bring the ball out a little bit more. Somebody's got to bring the ball out when you have three central defenders, and I think Font is comfortable on the ball.
I would keep Rice in, to be honest with you. I agree with the Creswell everything. Creswell stays on the left wing back for me. I think he played well, actually. I know people gave him a lot of grief, but he's got only Lanzini's got more assists for us this season, and Creswell's played half the time under Moyes at centre back, so that says something. I would keep Rice, Ogbonna, and the last one's a toss up. Is how fit is Winston Reid? Collins, he's terrible against Brighton, and it scares me because I think he's going to put Zabaleta back at right wing back. I think that he's going to do that and take Byram out. So to have Zabaleta then Collins up against Richarlison just terrifies me, to be quite honest with you. Font's not much faster than Collins, though, but he reads the game a lot better, I think. So yeah, I'd probably go Reid for this one. Reid, Ogbonna, and Rice for me. Rice, he made a mistake against Brighton, but I think you're just going to have to put up with it, put down to an experience, hope he learns from it. And he hasn't made that many mistakes. And it's all very well saying Rice has made a mistake, but I think Collins made even more. So, but do you agree that Byram will be hooked out of this team? I think he's got to get an extra attacking player on. And I think Byram's going to be the sacrifice in order to put
I had Zabaleta down at right wing back. That's what I'd put down.
And what about Arnautovic? Arnautovic is back. He's in the squad. How fit is he, though? We don't know. Would you risk him? One thing you have to consider, I think, though, is we don't have a game the following weekend. So there is that break, if you like.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously you can guess that I've got Kiate and Noble as the holding section.
You don't have any options, mate.
That's it. Absolutely. That's what you've got. I've gone with Chicharito, obviously, and if we call it a front three or however way you want to call it, I've actually gone with Mario, obviously, and the other one I've put Arnautovic / Antonio. So I'd go with whoever's fitter. Yeah, I would. I would risk an Arnautovic because just he's looked better than Antonio this season, a lot better than Antonio this season. So I'd put him in it. I just wonder, he's a big old lump, an Arnautovic. So I've always thought people like that take a little while to get fitter than, you know, sort of skinny guys like me.
Yeah, it just depends how fit he is. We don't know how fit he is. You know, for all we know, he's running around the training ground like he's never had an injury, but at the same time, he might be sort of light training and he's been protected. I've got the exact same team as you, apart from our back three. Then I think Mario's going to play centre midfield, though. I do think he'll be inside Chiati and Noble a little bit and leave the other two up ahead. And I think you have to do that because Watford's midfield, we've only got Chiati, who's not very disciplined, in there with Noble. Watford are going to take the piss out of our centre midfield. If that's the case, I'd almost be betting on Decore to score on Saturday because he'll just walk into our midfield with no one marking him. But no winning 5 for West Ham, as long as you don't include extra time in that one. But Watford have only got 1 point in their last 6 away games. Gonzo, are you feeling confident for this one?
Weirdly, yes. Chelsea are awful at the moment. Look what Bournemouth did to them. I'm not going to take credit away from Watford for doing that. Watford had to play well, and as I've said, I think they did get a bounce from it. But this reminds me a little bit of the Everton game when Unsworth was in the dugout and Fat Sam was in the stands, and we got whooped. And Rooney had his super duper show, and it was like a low point for us. And then we went on after that, and we improved. And I just think Moyes has probably had enough of all this stuff that we're not going to discuss on this show. He's had a good chunk of time. He's had a good week on the training ground. He'll have had, and I think he'll have put some things in place. And I think it will hopefully mirror that. He'll have bedded his team down. He'd have gotten more solid. He would have dealt with the frailties that were displayed by the defence in the last game. Drilled them on that, and I just think. I am quite confident. I think it was, we said before, I think it was the Leicester game when it all been too much, and it was like a tinderbox, that stadium, and actually the team played very well and the crowd responded. I've got a feeling that's going to happen again.
Yeah, the difference with that Leicester game, though, is that was Moyes' first game, and I think there was a reason for people to get on their feet, and that was to back the new manager. Now we're sort of a slightly different scenario now, but I know what you're saying, and hopefully it is the same. To be honest, I don't think there'll be many bored out songs on Saturday because there's a plan. There's a plan now. The march is in place. We all know what's happening. There's a plan now, so you don't really have to do it during the game because there's something in place away from the football in the future. I'm not very confident for this one, mate. I'm struggling to feel. When I was watching that on Monday, I was thinking their wingers are just. Every time Watford got the ball, went out to one of the wingers and they ran with pace. They were taking on players. I mean, I know Chelsea are dodgy at the minute, but their centre-backs are a lot better than our centre-backs, so they were causing them grief. If Richarlison and Delafeu run, Collins and Creswell or whoever's the 2 centre-backs on the sides, we could be in trouble. And their centre midfield are fantastic. The way they move the ball, the way they shift the ball, they go from back to front, from left to right, it's just absolutely brilliant. It's something we struggle with. And if we see the Chiati against Brighton, they're going to have a field day against Martin Noble in there because that's what it will be. It'll be about Martin Noble against Watford's midfield. I'm not confident for this one at all. It's a bit like Crystal Palace. I wasn't very confident for that one. I thought we can get a draw. I'll probably take that. But the problem is, Gonzo, time's running out, and a point is no longer enough. A draw is not enough anymore. If you get a draw, the first thing you do when you come out of that ground is think, how's everyone else behind us got on? Because if they've won a couple of them, we're moving down the spaces, and we've got Liverpool away. You know, it's not good. But anyway, saying all that, you're a bit more confident than me. So what's your score prediction?
I think we're going to win 3-1. Now, obviously, that's not a betting tip. Don't, Dave, you're losing money. Don't be coming back here and having a go at me. And there's no reason to it. I've got no, you know me. I'm not afraid to predict a West Ham loss. I'm not saying it to try and lift the spirits or because I think I just got a feeling about it. It's so West Ham to win this one, and I think we will because we have to, not just because of the points. 27 points. 24 is so close, and that's the distance in the league. I think we have to, and I think we will be, not because we'd be down, but I just think the atmosphere around the place would be so terrible if we do lose. I just think we're going to do it.
I'm confident we'll score. I'm confident we'll score, but the problem is keeping them out. That's my worry about this one. We're sort of relying on a potentially half fit and out of it. It's not an ideal situation to be in, is it? You know, I couldn't feel more sorry for Hugo last week coming on at 3-1 down. It's like, well, there's your debut, on you go. Christ almighty, give the boy a chance. I'm actually hoping that he can come on Saturday when we're not getting beat, or it's only 1 goal, so he's actually got something to come on to. He looked better than Antonio for me when he came on. He was only on for a short period, but he actually looked. Antonio looked like he was moving in treacle a bit, which was a bit worrying because I thought that's what he was working on. But I'm going to go for my favourite score. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'll let Gonzo tell you in a second. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here. We'll see you on the boats on Saturday. We'll be back on Saturday night with our review. Gonzo, to finish the show, tell everyone what my score prediction is.
2-2!